Conspiracies. Peering into darkness is what we do. Derek and Sharon Gilbert break it all down for you.
AI Elvis, thank you for the introduction and welcome to the program. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I am Sharon Gilbert and welcome to our home, everyone. We are delighted to have you here.
Thank you for joining us. As always, we encourage you to download our mobile app first and foremost. You'll find that at PIDradio.com/app or gilberthouse.org/app. iOS, Android, Amazon, Kindle Fire. We've also got TV versions for pretty much all of the smart TVs and set-top boxes. Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Google TV, Android TV, Apple TV. We got all the TVs.
Are we on Apple Watches?
Don't think so.
Is that a separate app?
Well, you can probably get the audio routed from our app through your Apple Watch if you wanted to do that.
I remember when Gary Stearman showed us his Apple Watch. This was years ago.
Yeah,
And Gary Stearman is an adopter of early tech.
Yeah, first-gen Apple Watch. He was very, very... So when we went back there and visited, and I showed him my Osmo Pocket, which is a small gimbal-mounted 4K camera, and it takes really steady shots. We used it for a lot of the B-roll that we shot in Israel the last couple of times, and Gary just thought that was the coolest thing ever.
I know. I love Gary so much.
Yeah.
But you and I this morning, we're recording this a bit earlier than we normally do because we're going to go over and visit Derek's mother later on and have lunch with her. The things going on in the world remind me, it's like there's nothing new under the sun. So if you hear or see something that is brand new, understand it's probably happened before. Yeah. And we will absolutely talk about that when we get to the AI agency.
Right. Following up on last week's discussion, we'll have an update on the Molt book, AI agents. Yeah.
Well, Derek and I were talking this morning just before we began recording about our old P.I.D. radio programs. I'm reading a book right now. I'm reading about 10 books at the same time. I will switch back and forth between them because they seem to go together so incredibly well. Books on the Nazis.
Yep.
Books on what Peter Levenda referred to as, we jokingly, only half jokingly, called it 6 Degrees of Charles Manson. Yeah. But his Sinister Forces trilogy, 3 nonfiction books that take a look at the high weirdness, spiritual high weirdness here in the United States. Yeah. And things that are going on, but most people don't connect those dots. Well, he has. Yeah. Anyway, that, and also reading a book about the Reconnaissutos, Indio. It is a book called The Octopus, and it's about the death of Danny Casolaro. You and I talked about this in the early days of PID radio.
We did. I'm going to look this up and try to find the date while we're discussing it. But, yeah, early on. And we talked about this, I think it was last year when Netflix had that documentary, that docuseries on the Octopus murders.
On Casolaro's death. And
right.
A gentleman who got pulled into it and wanted to follow the steps that were taking place. And look, you should watch it. You will learn a whole lot about what has happened geopolitically, but also theopolitically. Yeah. You who listen to this, you guys are smart. We know that you understand there are spiritual forces behind what we see in the news. But we highly recommend it. Just ignore the end. The ending reminds me of the end of the X-Files or the end of Lost. They're taking the rug and it's like Lucy pulling the football away.
It's like Bobby Ewing was stepping out of the shower.
Yeah, we're just going to rewrite this whole thing.
Yeah. The program we did was called The Octopus on PID Radio, October 4th of 2009.
Oh, my goodness.
So that was about 4 years into 4.5 years into P.I.D. radio.
Yeah, we're almost to our anniversary date of March 5.
Yeah.
We started March 5 of 2005.
21 years ago, yeah. I was talking to Richard Sirrett yesterday of the Conspiracy podcast.
Oh, yeah.
He also is a weekend host on Coast to Coast AM.
Love him.
So, he hosted Coast to Coast last night after interviewing me for his podcast. And we talked a little bit about the idea of high weirdness, more spiritual high weirdness.
Yeah.
And the fact that, and we'll get into this in a minute, that there are some unexpected voices now talking about, hey, what do you think about, giants and stuff? Mm-hmm. But we mentioned that, or I mentioned that we are coming up on our 21st anniversary. And, not to pat ourselves on the back or anything, but we are probably, almost certainly, the longest running continuously produced podcast on the internet.
I think we are.
I can't think of anybody who was podcasting back in March of 2005.
I know. We started just 6 months or so after the code was written for podcasting.
The code that allows you to syndicate your feed and let people download the media file had only been developed in October of 2004. So we were pretty early on it. So I just, that, of course, told the joke again. That makes us the OGs of podcasting, the old geezers of podcasting. But whereas back in the day, because we were one of the first, we showed up pretty consistently in the top 100 rankings of most downloaded podcasts.
We were in the top 10 at one point.
Yeah. And that was,
has nothing to do with us and everything to do with there weren't very many of them.
Lack of options. All right, well, we'll listen to this one. But we talked about this, and I'm looking at the show notes and remembering things that we'd forgotten because I wrote some pretty detailed show notes for that program.
Yep.
Danny Casolaro believed that the Octopus, the conspiracy, connected the United States government to the Inslaw case, which was the software company whose program called Promise, Promis, was allegedly, we have to say, stolen by the Department of Justice under Attorney General Ed Meese in the Reagan White House, and connected that to the October surprise theory that Reagan, as the incoming president, and his team cut a deal with the mullahs in Iran to not release the American hostages who'd been captured during the Iranian Islamic Revolution in 1979.
Right.
To hold them until after the 1980 presidential election because it made Jimmy Carter look weak. And
it made Reagan look amazing because almost day one, hey, guess what I did?
Yeah. He's inaugurated and boom, the hostages returned home. Casolaro was found dead in a hotel room in Martinsburg, West Virginia in August of 1991. His wrists were slashed
multiple times.
Yeah, 10 or 12 times. I mean, it was so gruesome they couldn't determine the exact number. But even though his wrists were slashed that many times, his death was ruled a suicide.
I know. There were way too many obvious details that would have denied that.
Yes.
It was pretty much impossible that he committed suicide.
Right.
There were no hesitation marks, for one thing.
Exactly. People who do that don't often go in with
and cut deeply.
Right.
And the razor was underneath his body in the bathtub, and there were missing papers.
Yeah.
There was a witness who saw a man knocking on Casolaro's door shortly before this. There were a lot of really strange aspects to this.
Yeah. And the reason we picked up this story in 2009, even though the case goes back to 1991 and earlier, was that in 2009, a missionary to Honduras named Jimmy Hughes was charged in the 1981 deaths of a guy named Fred Alvarez, who was the head of security for the Cabazon Indian Reservation in Riverside County, California.
Right.
Alvarez and two of his associates were killed in Rancho Mirage, and Hughes, a missionary, by 1991, or by 2009, was accused of killing to silence Alvarez before Alvarez could expose financial improprieties and other illegal activity on the Cabazon Reservation.
Right. Now, am I remembering correctly? Was Hughes actually using that as cover for covert operations?
That was the claim, that his missionary work was, being used as cover for other operations.
Yeah.
So, the octopus then was sort of like one of the central nodes of the tentacles of the octopus back in the late 70s and early 90s. It is so convoluted. There were media reports that this Promise software that had been doctored or
backdoors had been put into it.
Right, by a man named Michael Riconosciuto, and then sold to foreign governments, which then allowed the NSA access into sensitive government files in foreign powers. FBI spy Robert Hansen, who was convicted of spying for Russia, apparently he sold an upgraded version of Promise to Russia, which in turn sold it on to Osama bin Laden. And it's believed that Osama bin Laden used the software to penetrate U.S. databases and other bank databases and use this software to move money between banks without being detected by U.S. counterterrorism agencies.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a whole lot going on here, and we linked to a bunch of articles in this. I'm going to put a link to the original show if you want to go back to 2009 and listen to it. But a woman whose articles we mention or cite in the program about the octopus, Virginia McCullough, at a website called newsmakingnews.com.
Oh, I remember that. I forgot all about that.
We used to look at that site a lot.
We did.
And Virginia has since passed away. But she reached out to us after that program back in 2009 and said this was the most concise summary of the octopus that she'd ever seen. And I'm going to find out why I'm not seeing an MP3 player here on this particular program.
Well, I wouldn't worry about it right now.
Did somebody hack our no, it's
No,
I probably
of course not.
goofed on
No.
something. Anyway, the program is one of those conspiracies that has been around for a while, and after a while you kind of forget because you're putting more stuff into your brain. With Richard Syrett yesterday, we talked about the massive document dump from the Epstein files, which was a week ago Friday, we didn't have time to talk about it on last week's program because it was so new, really hadn't had a chance to parse through anything. And even at this point, only I think a fraction of what's out there has been analyzed by people who have the time to go through them. But it does appear that some very dark things going on, but with Epstein at the center of it, and a number of elites in the U.S. and the U.K., possibly Russia. There are accusations now that he was feeding information to the Russians.
I think it only makes sense that he was getting information and obtaining actionable records, not just written records, email exchanges. He kept everything, but also videos. He was gathering information that could be used as blackmail. And if you're trying to, if you're a spy or you're spying for someone, you need blackmail tapes, documents, whatever, so you can pressure someone to do what he or she is supposed to do for whatever entity you are spying for.
Exactly. You're in the business of trading secrets, and if you can get people to compromise themselves, you got a bigger chance, a much greater chance of getting secrets out of them.
And I think this is one of the reasons that there were a lot of folks on both sides of the aisle who were pressuring the Justice Department to release all of the Epstein files, because the assumption was by these individuals that Trump was in them in a very well a way that would have allowed them to have power over him.
Yeah.
But he, and you could see in the files that Epstein was trying to lure him in, but failed. Miserably failed.
Trump kept him at arm's length. In fact, there's well-documented story about that Trump, when he found out that Epstein was bringing young girls to Mar-a-Lago, that he ejected Epstein from the property and he was barred from ever returning. So Epstein had no love for Trump. In fact, Epstein's cellmate in that lockup in Manhattan, where he was later found deceased, said that he didn't like Trump, that Epstein hated Trump because he couldn't get anything out of Trump.
Yeah. Now, one of the individuals who is included prominently in those files is Lord Peter Mandelson, who was a member of the House of Lords, which is sort of like the Senate version of Parliament. But he's no longer. He had to resign, and then they just kicked him out.
Yeah, and it's reported that King Charles is looking at stripping him of his barony.
He really needs to just have that removed. And there are theories that if that happens, then possibly there are a lot of undeserved privileges and titles that have been distributed. Generally how it works is the outgoing prime minister gets to submit a list of honors to the monarchy. And the king or queen doesn't have a choice in most cases. The king or queen can say, I prefer not to offer this to this person for X, Y, and Z reasons. But generally that isn't what happens. It's, okay, you want this, all right, get out the sword, bang, your sir, bang, your lord, bang, or whatever. So these are favors. It isn't generally that someone, oh my goodness, you have, gained so much for the cause of cancer or whatever. It's, you played nice with me when I was in office and helped me get there and stay there. And so you get an honor. Here's your little gong.
Yeah. And Mandelson, and he may cost Sir Keir Starmer his his job as prime minister.
I was just reading on X. If you're not on X, you really need to be. If you are a news junkie, you need to go to X because that's where the grown-ups are.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of comedy there too. Really wonderful AI videos and AI memes. Marco Rubio is the favorite right now. I've done Marco Rubio memes, and so easy. But here's the thing. On X this morning, I just saw a few minutes ago that it's really looking like Starmer is going to be forced out because I know Kemi Badenoch, who is the leader of the Conservative Party, has been saying that she is going to force a no-confidence vote in Parliament. And if that happens, then he has to stand down because if he doesn't do it, the king can prorogue Parliament, shut it down, and force a general election. And I think Labour would lose.
They would. So
the person who very well may become prime minister is Shabana Mahmood.
Really?
Yes. She's the Home Secretary right now. She's a Muslim and a woman, so she will be the first Muslim woman who's PM. This is a big thing, and it's because I think that Islam has won the UK. The UK has just capitulated to Islam.
Yeah. Richard the Lionheart would be spinning in his grave if that were a thing.
If that were a thing.
Yeah.
He'd be causing earthquakes all over France because he's buried in France.
Yeah. It's Richard the Lionheart is not well known, but he was or at least
Richard the First.
You all may not know, and I was not aware that he was a crusader. Because all I knew at the time when I read Defenders of the West by Raymond Ibrahim was that he'd been in, The Lion in Winter, character played by Anthony Hopkins, and portrayed as gay, which is not the case.
Which is not true.
No, Richard the Lionheart was not gay. And he is the only Christian military leader who fought the great Islamic warlord Saladin and never lost. Fought Saladin 3 or 4 times and won every battle. England, you're right, has rolled over for Islam to the point where I think we discussed previously the National Health Service issuing guidance to their hospitals saying, yeah, it's okay for cousins to marry, even though up to 15% of the time there are serious birth defects that result.
And by the way, now it's come out, the National Health Service is hiring nurses whose sole job will be to help counsel families and take care of children born of incest.
Okay.
Because look, some of these marriages are technically incest. There are laws against them in the UK, but okay, all right, if you want to marry your cousin, that's okay. And if you want to marry someone who's young, that's according, this is your culture. We're not going to tell you can't do this. We're going to make sure that you don't have any dogs in your neighborhood. Nobody's eating bacon in front of you. We're going to make sure that all of the stores have to provide halal, foods for you. If you say it's haram, we'll get rid of it.
Yeah. It's, look, being open-minded and being welcoming is one thing. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, when you basically surrender your culture to invaders who don't want to assimilate. I mean, we saw back in 2018 when we were in the UK. We went there, or 2019, went there to visit and...
look at all the places that I've written about in the Red Wing saga.
Exactly. Yeah, we went to Whitechapel, which is east side of London, and it's where the Jack the Ripper murders took place. And today, walking down whatever that big street was, it looked like you were in a Middle Eastern open-air bazaar.
I think it's Old Commercial Street. I don't know if it's still called that or not, but we got to see a lot of the places. And I'll be honest, we felt safe. At that time, in 2019, we felt safe. However, there were so many signs on the lampposts of an individual that I guess is revered by Islam in the UK, and he looked just like Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, we were told he was the head of some Islamic charity there. But yeah, he looked for all the world like Osama bin Laden. Mm-hmm. It was really strange. And it was around that time that we were there that John Cleese, who is not a conservative, said that England isn't English anymore. And he was just vilified.
He was.
In the press. But then, fast forward to 2025 and Mayor Sadiq Khan is saying that London isn't for...
the whites. He says that whites don't represent London.
Yeah.
You get off the plane at Heathrow and the massive amounts of images you see are happy people. They look great. I mean, they look very happy, but they're clearly all Muslim. Yeah.
It is astonishing how things have changed in England over the last 50 or 60 years. But, a similar thing is happening here, just not quite as quickly in the United States.
In certain areas of the United States, it is, And I blame immigration, illegal immigration, in the UK and in Europe, beginning with Angela Merkel back in, 2000? No.
It was 2011, in the Syrian civil war.
Yeah. And look, open-hearted people, if someone is genuinely fleeing for their lives, then let them into your country. Help them out. I am all for that. If young women trying to flee Iran right now knocked on our door, we'd let them in. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. However, those who are calling themselves, we're fleeing for our lives, is this because you're wanted for a crime in that country? Sometimes that's what happens. But the illegal immigrants being admitted into these countries over this time period since 2011, you said?
Yeah, that's when it broke out.
So a while, 15 years.
Yeah, Europe has been.
They're primarily military-age men.
Right. Yeah, Europe has changed incredibly. I mean, over the Christmas holiday season, there were, it's a tradition in Germany, especially, to have these Christmas markets on the high street or the equivalent thereof in Germany. And this year they had to ban vehicle traffic. They had to put up concrete bollards and other barriers to prevent ramming attacks with vehicles like they've had in past years, where Muslims have taken vehicles and run them through crowds of people, as you would get at a Christmas
Mowing them
market,
down.
and mowing them down. So it is just astonishing what's happening. It's a spiritual thing. It is the God or spirits behind Islam. And I've got my theory as to who that God is. But however you identify that entity or entities, they are bent on destroying two pillars of culture. Number one is the Jews in Israel, and number two is the Christian West, because that's the only part of Christendom that they didn't conquer between 636 AD and the high water mark of Islam, which is probably the siege of Vienna in 1683. They never were able to take Western Europe, France, Germany, England, United Kingdom.
They're taking it now.
They are taking it now from the inside out. And a similar thing is happening here in the United States. Again, it's just not as advanced here. And I pray, and this is not Islamophobia, this is just being aware of what Islam is all about. It is not about assimilation, it's about conquest.
They are bringing their, well, I'm going to say it right out loud, that they're not worshiping the creator God of this universe.
No.
They are not worshiping that what we will call Yahweh based in the Bible.
Right.
The God that they're worshiping is a fallen angel. I'm going to say it right out.
Yeah, absolutely is. I mean, the entity that delivered the message and the Quran, allegedly, to Muhammad, and I believe he encountered some entity identified himself as Jibril or Gabriel, but then delivered verses that contradict what's in the Bible. Now, Muslims would argue that Muhammad is the last prophet. Mormons would have a word or two with them, but, they're outnumbered. And that's why what Muhammad delivered was contrary to what you see in the scriptures that we Christians accept and what Jews accept. But he was hearing from an entity that is consumed with death and with bloodshed. And that is not God. God said, look, anyone or anything, any animal that sheds human blood, from that person or that animal, a reckoning will be required. Islam is all about conquest at the point of a sword.
Christianity is about our Lord sharing his blood, shedding his blood for us.
Right.
The other side, the fallen realm, want us to shed our blood for them.
Exactly. It is fundamentally reversed. It is anti-Christian, anti-Christ. The new mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, made an interesting comment the other day, which shows either he's dissembling or he is just a complete lack of understanding of what his religion is about. He described Islam as a religion that is fundamentally based on migration. So we should welcome immigrants. Like, migration?
No,
The
invasion.
reason Islam spread from Arabia to Spain within 100 years is because they were killing everybody in their way. It was it was conversion at the point of a scimitar. Either convert or, well, die, or pay the jizya tax and live as a second-class citizen. So
I've got a funny look on my face because I'm sitting here sort of trolling X, just because Derek and I have been really paying attention to what's going on X, because there are a lot of accounts that just follow open source intel, and they are watching the movement of ships and planes in the Middle East, and especially those that are being put within striking distance of Iran. So I've been kind of keeping an eye on this, but listen to this. Zohran Mamdani, who is the mayor of New York right now, giving his grand mayoral speech about how America should take the lead from Muhammad and Islam. Now is the perfect time to remind all Americans what happened when the founding fathers encountered Muhammad and Islam. Do you remember our first war that we were involved in?
Yeah, the war with the Barbary pirates.
Yep.
The Barbary Coast.
Yep.
It's because they were capturing and enslaving American sailors.
Exactly.
Jefferson and Adams were... The American government was just astonished that because we'd not done anything to antagonize or to in any way justify violence against our sailors. Mm-hmm. And so they asked the ambassador from, I think it was Algiers or Tunisia, wherever he was from, it represented the government in the Barbary Coast. They had an ambassador to London. And they confronted this guy and said, what are you doing? We want to be peaceful to all nations. And so why are you attacking us, a nation that's done you no harm? And the response was basically, it's because our prophet said that we're supposed to enslave anybody who does not follow the teachings of the prophet.
Right.
So, okay, either convert or we enslave you or we kill you. That is Islam. It sounds harsh, but when you've read a bit of Islamic history and you see this coming up again and again and again over 1,400 years, you begin to detect a pattern.
Let me just say this, too, that I think, as with Christians, it becomes a cultural thing. Okay, well, we're all Catholic, or we all go to Presbyterian church. I was trained that when but not everybody lives as a Christian. I think that there were many second, third, fourth generation Muslims in England at the time that and it wasn't just labor that was allowing these military age men into England, not discouraging them, not turning the boats around, none of that. They were just letting them come in droves by the hundreds. And I think that the Muslim families who were living in England prior to this had become more culturally Muslim than anything else. And they genuinely were peaceful and probably still are, but they are also being affected by those military-age immigrants who are coming in and telling them, now you must live according to the book, according to the Quran. And these preachers, they are not hiding it. You can find videos of these preachers. Some of them, it's their own video. They got a podcast.
Yeah.
And they are threatening the people of England. They're threatening the people of Europe.
Basically saying we're here to take over.
Exactly.
Europe is dead. We're well, and sadly, as I've got a feel for Raymond Ibrahim because he's been writing about this for quite a while. He is a scholar of Islamic history, being of Egyptian heritage, and speaking and reading Arabic. He can read their materials going back to the Middle Ages when they were writing about, what they were going to do to the Europeans and that sort of thing. He's been warning about this for a long time. I've reached out to him once to see if I can get him for an interview on my podcast about his new book, The Two Swords of Christ, which is a history of the Knights Templar and the Knights Hospitaller. But his previous books, I've got several interviews with him, and I had him on 5 and 10 for Skywatch TV to discuss things about related to Islam and Islamic violence. He's been warning about this for a couple of decades now.
A long time.
And people are just now starting to catch up to him. And thankfully, he's starting to get a bigger platform than I can offer or that we can offer. He's been on Steve Bannon's program,
War
Room, on Real America's Voice Network. He's been interviewed by Glenn Beck. He's been getting on some very large podcasts. There's one called Trigonometry.
Oh, yeah.
Which
Great
is hosted
title.
by a couple of British comedians who recognize what's going on in the world. Constantine Kissin is one who's a very eloquent and insightful young man. And his partner, who is a regular on that headline program that I used to watch every now and then on GB News. Anyway, they would take like a sort of a comic. The one in the evening. Yeah, on the next day's newspaper.
The headlines, yeah.
Anyway, so he's been on there discussing things. He's also been interviewed by another fellow whose name I can't remember now. A very eloquent young man who is getting some fairly big names on his podcast. So I'm glad Raymond is getting the exposure because he can speak to the origins and the intentions of Islam with much more expertise than I can. And if you enjoy history and love to learn, highly recommend the work of Raymond Ibrahim because it will open your eyes to what Islam is about. And I would also recommend Dr. Timothy Furnish and his books about Islam. So it is a warning to the West that most of us are either oblivious to or we're ignoring, because it doesn't seem like a clear and present danger. Here in the Ozarks, we rarely encounter Muslims.
We're invaded by armadillos.
Armadillos, right.
The odd possum.
But there are large numbers of Muslims in various communities here in the United States, Michigan, Dearborn, Hamtramck, the Detroit area, New York City, but liberals, progressives, this odd red-green, socialist Muslim alliance is really bizarre because they fundamentally have nothing in common except they don't like Christ.
I know. When I was at IU studying biology, I had a lot of friends who were extremely bright people from many different countries. Some of them were Muslims, some were Hindu, some were, don't really know. They were from China, probably part of the CCP. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been sent by the country. But extremely nice people. The problem is when you are of the mindset that I have to take this country, this city, whatever, by force, and you have to convert everybody or they die. That's the mindset of some of these young men who are illegally entering. And we're going to now, I just want to talk about the spirits behind this sort of thing, not just fallen angels, as far as the so-called real name of, and I think you really hit on it, the real name of Allah. But looking at the female deity, Inanna, who I think is the whore of Babylon. I think she's the one riding the beast. She is, in many ways, controlling the world for now. And I think she uses Islam, I'll be honest. I think she's using Islam because she loves blood, too. She has this illicit, ritualistic sex side of her, and the other side of her is bloodshed and war. So she's building a world based on those two things. And that's exactly what we're seeing.
And I think that tracks with kind of what we see historically in the relationship between these entities. The one that I think is Allah is the subject of my book, The Second Coming of Saturn. I think it's the entity the Romans called Saturn.
Right. And you use a lot of footnotes. You did a lot of reading for this. You didn't just pull this out of a hat.
No. The evidence is circumstantial, but it all fits together. There was an entity in Babylon whose name was Enlil. He was also called Enlil by the Sumerians. The Akkadians, who were located further north of Babylon, the name there was Ellil. And this is the entity mentioned in Isaiah 14. Lucifer, son of the morning. Lucifer is a Latin translation of the Hebrew Halel ben Shachar, which roughly means light bringer, son of dawn, light bringer, son of morning. A scholar named William Gallagher, back around 1994, wrote a paper, and Doug Hamp put me onto this paper, that showed etymologically Halel is the Hebrew transliteration of the name Elil. That's who's in view in Isaiah 14, not Satan. I think this Elil is actually Shemiyaza, the leader of that Genesis 6 rebellion. The name Elil is from the Semitic Ilu, meaning God of gods. In other words, he thinks he is the supreme deity. Allah means the God, very similar etymologically. And when you look at the characteristics of these entities, connected to the netherworld, connected to death and sacrifice, especially child sacrifice.
Yes.
The attitudes of Muslims towards children is very
impersonal.
Impersonal. Example of this a couple of weeks ago, where the media picked up on a story and ran with a headline, which turned out to be incorrect, accusing ICE of using a 5-year-old boy as bait to trap the father.
I know. That's not at all what happened.
Yeah. No, the father took off running and left the boy. Anyway, children are basically viewed as dispensable in Islam. And, of course, if you've read the Bible, you know that Moloch was all about child sacrifice. Mm-hmm. Well, so were his other iterations like Kronos, whose one of his epithets was technophagos, which basically means child eater.
Yes.
That's, I think, who we're dealing with in the case of Allah. It is not Yahweh. It is not the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And we in the West need to wake up to this. Now, there are some Republicans in Congress who just this past week announced they were forming a new, what do they call it? It's not a political action committee. It's a caucus.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
The Sharia Free America Caucus. And, of course, there are those on the left who then respond, well, this is so hateful, blah, blah, blah. All right, fine. But Sharia is fundamentally and diametrically opposed to the kind of life we Americans have enjoyed under the Constitution since it was passed in, 1780 something? I forget when the Constitution, 1791, when the Constitution was adopted. And we don't follow the Constitution. It's kind of ish here in the 21st century. I mean, there's nothing in the Constitution that really gives the federal government power to tax our income, but, we'll just pretend that it does. But the idea that the people choose their leaders and that there's supposed to be a separation of church and state, that the government is not supposed to dictate to you your religion, that's fundamentally opposed to Islam, where there is no difference between church and state.
Exactly.
The church is the state in Islam.
There's a post by Representative Keith Self about this. He says, Sharia Free America Caucus has grown to 35 members of Congress from 18 states. That's over a third of the country, 18 states.
Yeah.
And it's growing day by day. They're committed to stopping the spread of Sharia in our communities and local governments. This is not a hateful thing. This is a loving thing. This is trying to keep those laws that will allow a 10-year-old to marry an old man.
Yeah. Yeah. There are those who say, well, look, the First Amendment guarantees Muslims the right to practice their religion without interference from the government. Mm-hmm. That's true.
But you can't force that on others. Exactly.
I would say if they want to have the muezzin issuing the call to prayer over loudspeakers at 5 a.m, a local community should have the authority to say, no, we're not doing that.
Well, in California, did you know that there is now a ruling saying to a Christian school, you can't teach Christian literature? Yeah,
you have to make it optional. I just saw that story this morning.
It's a Christian school, for goodness sake. Imagine saying that about Muslim school.
A madrasa or whatever.
You can't teach Islam?
Yeah. Or, hey, if you've got the word for a Jewish religious...
yeshiva.
Yeshiva. Yeah, telling a yeshiva that you have to make Jewish education optional. No. Again, the only thing that these groups have in common is their hatred of the gospel. Mm-hmm. Because the progressives out there, the queers for Palestine, once Muslim Islam takes over, they're the first ones thrown off the building.
It's very much like, and we've talked about this before, it's very much like the lead up to World War II, where you've got in 1936 or so, Hitler comes to power. And
33.
Thank you very much. I should remember that. 33, he comes to power, and the communists who have helped him get to power, the gays, the whatever, if you are in certain groups that are not true Aryan,
Right.
you are going to be marginalized, and then you're going to be institutionalized,
Right.
and then you're going to be goneized.
Yes. De-alivized.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting time to be alive as we see these forces coming to play. And again, Europe is much farther down this path than the United States. And sadly, the only thing that's going to cure it for the UK, for the EU, or for the US, although we're not quite sure we're quite at the point here in the US, but for the EU and the UK, it's mass deportations. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be very difficult. But other than that, it's going to, because if it's not that, it's going to be civil war at some point.
Right now, Shabana Mahmood, who is the Home Secretary, one of her jobs is to head up the Metropolitan Police. Mm-hmm. She's not the commissioner, but she oversees all of that.
Yeah.
The Metropolitan Police are busy policing hurdy words online. They're not actually policing crime, because a lot of the crime in the country is not necessarily Anglo-Saxon. Now, there is crime, amongst all groups.
Right.
But, for instance, there were 2 men who were wearing balaclavas covering their faces and all in black and carrying, I think one had a machete and the other one had, I think, a sledgehammer. Ooh. At 10:30 in the morning, in broad daylight, in a very affluent part of London. They just broke the glass, went in and took all of this was a jewelry store, a very high-end jewelry store, and they stole everything they wanted, walked away, didn't run, they walked away, and it's on video. There's CCTV everywhere in London. Do you think they've been arrested? Nah.
Yeah. No, too busy chasing down main tweets.
Yeah.
Well, that is sad, because it is the land of our ancestors. Yours more from Scotland than from England. Mine mostly from England and a few from Wales.
I've got some from Germany as well. So
Yep. But
I'm all those. I'm very much EU.
But here's the thing: in the United States, First Amendment protections aside, there is precedent for telling a specific religious group, you can't do that and be part of the United States. Mm-hmm. You cannot have Sharia and be part of the United States, because in the 19th century, when the Mormons wanted to become a state, Utah, the United States government said, yeah, we're not letting you in unless you stop with the bigamy. And suddenly there was a new revelation to the, head prophet of the Church of Latter-day Saints. And suddenly bigamy went out the window. There's still some who practice it, but technically it's illegal in Utah. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the Mormons were told you cannot continue to practice bigamy if you want us to take your state in and make it part of the union. That's
exactly right. Which gets us to President Trump's announcement yesterday, I think it was yesterday, that he is going to rededicate the United States to God.
Yeah.
I think it's in May.
That is really remarkable. Yeah, that is coming up in May, part of our 250th anniversary of as a nation. So kudos to President Trump. I know, there are a lot of Christians out there who look at his lifestyle, look at his history and say, well, we have questions about the depth of his faith. That's all well and good. But just when was the last time you heard another president talk about this? Probably not not during my lifetime anyway.
Well, Reagan talked about it some, but never talked about the idea of rededicating the nation. He was often attended the prayer breakfasts and things like that.
All presidents do. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. They kind of have to. But to say that you as president want to lead a ceremony inviting the whole country.
Yeah.
Washington has been cleaned up of crime and he's invited anybody who wants to come. Now, mind you, it's going to be very expensive to stay in Washington.
Oh, I imagine.
It is
Yeah.
normally, but I'm betting that those hotels are all, rubbing their hands together and thinking, we're going to be full. It would be a wonderful thing to go to, though, if you are able to drive in and you don't need to get a hotel, whatever, or if you can just afford it.
Yeah.
Plan on going, because I think this event. Now, that being said,
Yeah.
imagine the security at that event, because do you really think that those who want Sharia law are happy that the God of the Bible is going to be invoked for the whole country?
Yeah, by a president who says he's a Christian. I suspect not. I suspect this would be considered a high-value target.
Yes.
So
pray for our president.
Right.
Pray for everyone who's in office. Pray for all those who are going to attend. And here's the other thing. Pray for those who are in the chains of Islam.
yes,
They are in chains, and they don't know it.
that is absolutely true. Bondage to the fallen realm, and so blind that they don't see it. Just as those who are into the New Age, the occult, witchcraft, paganism, had a thought in my mind, but we're running out of time.
Oh, no.
About talking about, I know this has gone by very quickly. Talking about the chaos on the streets in Minneapolis, where a number of neighborhoods have set up checkpoints to make sure that the cars coming in and leaving really belong there. In other words, they're protesting the enforcement of borders by ICE by setting up borders.
I know.
The irony.
The
You cannot
irony
make it up.
is so palpable. I want to end on something funny, though.
But
No,
I
sorry.
wasn't done with my thought.
Oh, sorry.
It's worth speculating. Maybe we can do this at some point in a future program. If there's any connection to the fact that Minneapolis is essentially considered the witchcraft capital of the United States.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
There are those who call it Paganistan because there are so many pagans and Wiccans and witches in and around Minneapolis, St. Paul. Just a thought.
Inanna is really embedded there,
Yeah.
you might say. After we talk about this story, which probably is going to push us over, but we will give you the old geezer report really quickly when we're done with this. And it occurs to me that we could probably do every morning, because you and I do a show every morning, just sitting here talking.
Yeah.
And in fact, you said, well, let's just get the mics, because what we're talking about, we could do a show. We might, if Derek has the energy, to do just a 15 or 20 minute thing every day.
Yeah. We may do that. May just stream it live and just minimal production. you know. So that is something we're thinking about doing.
But here's the funny thing.
Yeah.
The Winter Olympics are taking place in Italy right now. And opening ceremony, I have to watch later because they always have something. But there's a discussion taking place regarding checking for doping. It's always a thing.
Right.
Making sure that they're not blood doping or anything like that, taking substances that enhance their performance. There is an event, it's ski jumping. So you want to go the farthest you can. You jump over this thing and you just sail through the air. It's kind of pretty to watch. I had not realized that a form of enhancement that is now being discussed regarding the anti-doping tests regards injecting hyaluronic acid in a very private male area. Very sensitive male area that, according to the articles that Derek and I were reading this morning, you can find this story at The Guardian and other places. It's referred to as, I will say, Venus Gate, but it doesn't start with a V.
Venus,
it rhymes with V. And allegedly, we have to say that the more surface area you have when you are gliding through the air, the farther you can go. And so hyaluronic acid is used sometimes on the face to smooth out wrinkles.
Yeah, it kind of
Therefore,
puffs it up a
has
little
a
bit.
plumping action.
Yes. And this comes about because, believe it or not, when skiers are measured for their skin-tight, form-fitting suits, they have to be measured basically in their skivvies.
Yep.
And it's because they have to know.
That's like a second skin, these suits.
Yeah, and it's because they don't want any athlete to get an unfair advantage over another.
No gym socks.
Right. And apparently it's believed that if you get a little extra cloth in your suit, there is an extra bit of lift.
Well, it can't just be cloth because, it has to be
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Filled out.
So you want to measure with a little extra girth.
An extra skosh of room.
So that, I don't know, does it give you wings?
I don't know. I'm picturing...
Make you like a flying squirrel?
I know that's what exactly I was picturing, a flying squirrel. Okay.
So the guy jumps and he's got, an extra quarter of an inch of fabric?
Well, according to the article, it can give them up to 5% extra. And I'm just thinking, what are you talking about?
I was thinking Rocket J Squirrel at the Olympics.
Yeah. So, in other words, we all need to watch this event.
Okay. Oh, my goodness. How do you test for that? The hyaluronic acid.
Hyaluronic acid?
Hyaluronic acid.
I don't know.
Is it from Hyrule?
It might, dun, 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 dun.
Legend of Zelda reference.
Oh, gosh.
That is the silliest thing I've heard all week.
I know. You
Other
should
than
probably,
setting up the borders to protest borders.
You should probably figure out a way that you can discuss it on 5 and 10.
I don't think I could.
Oh,
I'd be laughing through the whole thing.
That's very true. And if you're laughing as you listen to this, well, the world has to have some laughter, which is another reason to go on X. You get all the latest news. You get a lot of really wonderful, thoughtful posts that will get, some of them are giving history. I mean, I've learned so much, seriously, by being on X. I love it so much.
Yeah.
Facebook we go to because there are a lot of folks that listen to this who are on Facebook, and it's a great place to go to. It's just I find X more informative. And there's less bickering on X.
That's true. A lot of bickering that was created inadvertently by Joe Horn.
Oh, my goodness.
Because he noted on Wednesday or Thursday that on Wednesday's program, Candace Owens had played a video clip of a presentation given by Rob Skiba, the late Rob Skiba.
We were at that presentation.
We were at that conference where he gave that talk and discussed Gilgamesh and the Nephilim and played an audio clip from an interview featuring Tom Horn and Steve Quayle discussing whether or not the 2003 invasion of Iraq by the U.S. military was actually that the search for weapons of mass destruction was cover for actually searching for the tomb of Gilgamesh. And Joe just put that out there on Facebook saying, hey, look, I'm just glad.
Joe knows nothing about Candace.
Right. He's not been following her 5-month descent
into madness.
She started out asking valid questions about the investigation, and now she's just going full bore after Erica Kirk for what reason, I'm not sure.
I don't
speculate, but who knows. Anyway, there were people who then
she's jealous.
Went after, I think you're right. There were people who then said, hey, Joe, you do realize that she's anti-Semitic. She hates
rabidly
Jews.
Anti-Semitic.
And so Joe posted a clarification, and I shared that clarification. And suddenly I've got like 150 comments on that post arguing back and forth over Israel because she's she called out Benjamin Netanyahu early on.
I know. And Joe's response to you was, Derek, we need your book now.
Yeah.
Well, you've given, the part 1 of the book.
Right. The editor's supposed to start working on that next week. Or a week after next.
Because anti-Semitism is a tool used by the fallen realm to replace the king in Jerusalem.
Right. And sadly, there are Christians who are falling into that trap.
Yeah.
This is a very old trap I show in the book, and there are others who've done the same.
Joel Richardson has a wonderful book.
Yeah, When a Jew Rules the World.
Yeah.
In fact, it was the introduction to that book where I first was made aware of the Jewish hatred, because I know anti-Semitism technically is too broad a term because Arabs are also Semites.
Yeah, exactly.
We understand that. We get it. We're using the term the way the world uses it,
right,
to refer to Jews. All right. Anyway, Martin Luther hated the Jews. Wrote a couple of very long tracts. One of them was like a 60,000-word book on the Jews and their lies, which was cited by Adolf in Mein Kampf. And I was raised in the Evangelical Lutheran Church. I had no idea Luther thought those things. I doubt most Lutherans do. But there it is. And it goes it's much earlier than Luther, though. You can go back to the 2nd century. And Justin Martyr, who in the middle of the 2nd century AD, like 30 years after the Bar Kokhba rebellion, was throwing the Jews under the bus.
Yeah.
See, Emperor, we Christians are loyal citizens of Rome, not like those rebellious Jews. Now, if Christians don't understand that that's where this whole replacement theology comes from, is one of our early theologians sucking up to the Roman emperor. I mean, come on, do you not see the irony there?
Right. Derek interviewed Dr. Mike Spalding, whose new book is all about this.
Right. It was last week's program on A View from the Bunker. So I encourage you to go back and listen to that interview, but also to get Mike's book called Replacement Theology. It's available at Amazon, and I know that he'll have copies of it at the Go Therefore conference coming up in July.
Oh, yeah.
You can get a signed copy there, I'm sure. But, Mike is a careful scholar, a careful theologian, and he sees what we see, which is this alarming surge in hatred of Israel, hatred of the Jews.
This is spiritual.
It is spiritual. And it is, as I wrote to, I was exchanging notes with John Haller the other day, who does a wonderful every Sunday morning from their church.
We love him.
In Columbus, Ohio, a prophecy update. And John had commented on call it Candace Gate with, Joe's post, that this day was prophesied. We would see that this day when the world would turn against Israel. And we're seeing the early stages of it right in front of us now. And now the prophecy is slapping us in the face. It's like, what happened? Well, we knew this day was coming.
We're getting very close to a worldwide Hitler regime.
Yeah. And sadly, a lot of the professing Christians in the world today will cheer on the Antichrist when he leads that army towards Jerusalem.
At least early on. My prayer is that the Holy Spirit will give him a smack up the side of the head.
Yeah. Yeah.
As he often smacks me up the side of the head, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, I'm right there with you, sweetheart. So anyway, X has turned out to be a little less of a free-for-all than Facebook, which is kind of a surprise because it used to be the other way around.
I know. Well, ever since Elon Musk bought X, it genuinely is a place for free speech. You can say whatever you want to there, as long as you are not literally threatening the life of someone else.
Yeah.
You're free to, and there are community notes saying, no, this isn't true, blah, blah, blah. It's a really great place for discussion and discovering all sorts of things. Some of them is historical. Many of them, one of my favorite accounts is Britton Gebeden, who puts these wonderful animal videos up there, and also puppies, which is another account that does the same thing. So
some great timeline cleanses.
Great timeline cleanses, exactly. Old Geezer Report. Just really quickly, my eyes are doing okay. I've been taking these cyclosporin drops that at first they kind of irritated my corneas, but they seem to finally, after about 6 months of using them, seems to be making some sort of headway regarding my oil gland issues in my eyelids, which makes it easier to see. And I do like being able to see.
That is important.
Yeah. So
especially when you're driving.
Or when you're riding.
Yeah. I got approval this week that the insurance that I was able to obtain through the insurance exchange, which kind of a surprise to me because I know when we checked it out back in 2016, it was ridiculously expensive. Mm-hmm. But circumstances have changed over the last 10 years. And anyway, we were able to get an affordable plan and a good plan, and it will cover the treatment. They just wanted me to start with a slightly lower dosage than what the neurologist had recommended. Mm-hmm. But this is an infusion of immunoglobulin, and the process will probably take 4 or 5 days first time through, where for those 4 or 5 days, have to go to the infusion center, spend several hours there while they run this immunoglobulin into my system. Mm-hmm. But that is supposed to then tamp down my overactive immune response.
Yeah.
And then give my body a chance to start healing those nerves.
So if we're able to get this scheduled and the insurance does pick it up, Derek and I are probably just going to stay over for the 4, 5, 6 days, whatever it is that he'll be going through this, because it'll probably be an early morning arrival. We live an hour away from Springfield.
Right.
Probably there for 5 hours or so. And then he may just be exhausted when it's over. So there's some hotels right across from the center where this would take place. So we'll probably just stay up there, which means that, he may not be doing 5 and 10s.
Yeah, the schedule will probably be intermittent once we get that scheduled. The infusion center is waiting for my doctor to go ahead and approve and say, okay, instead of 36 milligrams, we'll give him 32.5 or whatever. Yeah. Once that's approved, then we're off, and that should provide relief. The results of it are typically pretty good. Side effects, though, do include fatigue, headache, stomach upset, things like that. Yeah,
and there are a few sort of alarming possible side effects, and that makes being right across from the hospital or the infusion center really important.
Yes, really, really helpful. So that is the update. But that is good news, because the cost of this treatment without insurance is backbreaking.
It's ridiculously expensive. And even with the Trump RX or whatever it's being called, I don't think that they have that in there yet. But,
they do not.
But thank you to President Trump for working that out. If you are on constant medication for this, that, or the other, you can go to TrumpRx.com, I think it is. Or is it .gov?
It's TrumpRx.gov.
Yeah, TrumpRx.gov. And there are coupons there for whatever it is that you are on. Look for that infusion or that medication or whatever.
Yeah, and one of my inhalers is on there, which is good.
I know. So you can get it much more cheaply because of that. You just print out the coupon and take it to your...
and you can even put it in your Apple Wallet or your Google Wallet on your phone.
Yeah, it's pretty great. So another reason to thank our good president.
Yeah, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And Dr. Mehmet Oz. They were really working on this stuff.
Yeah, they were. So thank you for that. And by the way, thank you to all of you, because your prayers are being answered. I know many of you want Derek to be healed, as do we. You can specifically pray, and this is something I specifically pray for Derek, is that the hemidiaphragm, which is frozen in place on his left lung, which means his lung doesn't actually expand the way it's supposed to.
Right.
Pray that is fixed.
Yeah.
Because getting 2 full tankfuls of air each time he breathes would be really nice.
Yeah, this really started up last summer, and when they did the X-ray on my chest and found that the diaphragm's not moving on that side. Well, how about that? The good news is there's no physical obstruction there.
Right.
So that's a good thing. The other thing we did discover this week, though, because you had noticed the change in my coloring. Mm-hmm. And once or twice I've gotten guys who colored, who've emailed me and said, you need to tone it down on the makeup because you look too red.
Yeah,
it's like, no, that's the way my
He doesn't wear makeup at all.
Yeah. It was more evident out in the barn using the camera out there. But it's my red blood cell, white blood cell counts are elevated.
Yeah.
And so we need to figure out what's going on there. So I'm going to the primary care physician this coming week to talk about that, and the CT scan that showed the enlarged liver and spleen.
Yeah, exactly. I had also asked, and you did ask, I had mentioned that perhaps they should do a heavy metals screen.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah,
because I was worried that you had more arsenic, which
Yeah.
can cause red coloring.
Yeah.
But apparently, they're all well under any sort of average
Yeah.
that's allowed.
And if you're wondering, because I had somebody send me a note this week asking about this. Yes, we did a year ago check for Lyme and
Yeah.
Rocky Mountain spotted
That was one of
fever.
the first things you were checked for.
Right, yeah. My primary care physician was pretty sharp and had all of those tests run.
He's a good guy. He likes to look at nutraceutical options.
Yeah, yeah. And those have helped. I'm convinced that the progression of all this has slowed because of the stuff that
Yep, I
my
agree.
primary care physician put me on long before I got in to see the neurologist.
Yeah, so thank you, everybody, for all
yeah.
your prayers. You guys are just so wonderful.
Truly appreciate
We
that.
really, really do. And we thank the Lord that you were able to get on insurance. And it's, it's just so many
That was
good
really
things.
a burden
Yeah.
that was lifted. So we're thankful for that. Another thing, and this is just, a little personal thing, if you could spare a moment, our daughter Nicole has got a couple of cats that she's had for quite some time, Booker and Piper, and little Booker, little gray cat, they're brother and sister. He's 11 years old. They're both 11 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He's got some heart issues, but he's also been dealing with something that appears to be an obstruction in his digestive tract.
Yeah.
And they're trying to diagnose what that's all about. And there are some thoughts it might be a tumor of some sort.
Yeah.
So they
were they able
supposed
to do the scope?
I've got to check with Nicole on that. They were supposed to do an endoscopy, and she was going to try to get that done this week.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
She's unmarried. These are her family,
Right.
that she lives with. I mean, we're her family, but you know what it is. You guys love pets too.
right. When you come home and you've got an animal there that's just happy to see you, regardless of what kind of day you had, regardless of how well you did your job that day, it's like, you're home.
Yeah.
Yay, human.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you would just, spare a little prayer for that little cat,
Booker. Just pray for Booker.
Yeah.
That'd be
that
wonderful.
would be very much
Also, just a
appreciated.
couple of quick things. You've been asked a couple of times why you're wearing those gloves.
Yes, if you've seen me wearing these gloves without the fingers in them, the black gloves, these are copper-infused compression gloves, which are normally used for people with rheumatoid arthritis. And I am actually seeing a rheumatologist in a few weeks. But Sharon got these thinking that maybe they would help with the neurological issues that I've got going on in my hands, because the condition I've got, CIDP, essentially means my immune system is attacking the nerves in my hands, my feet. My feet at this point, about 80% numb and almost all but paralyzed. They just sort of hang off my ankles. Starting to affect my fingers now to where I'm losing fine motor skills, button zipper snaps, holding a pen, eating utensils, becoming a challenge. Buttons and snaps are pretty much beyond me at this point.
Which is why you wear T-shirts under your jacket.
Right. Things without buttons are really helpful. These seem to help my hands when I'm wearing them. And it may just be that they keep them warmer because when my fingers get cold, I can't really even uncurl them all the way.
That could be. Who knows? They're relatively inexpensive, $10,
Like $7,
$11.
$8.
Yeah.
$10, $11, right?
Yeah.
So this is the third pair I've got. The little rubber grippy strips are hanging onto this pair
I know.
a lot longer than they did on the previous two.
Well, we thank the Lord for that.
So anyway, that's what the gloves are about.
Yeah. And some of you have asked, I found this out from Skywatch TV, why I'm wearing a hat on the desk when we go and record programs with him. It's just that the lights are really bright on set, and my cornea is being relatively dry and a bit sensitive to sunlight. I can now drive sometimes without a hat. If it's a super bright day, I have to have my hat on. I can't stand it.
Yeah.
I'm constantly blinking from the glare. And the set lights are the same way. So that's why I wear a hat. If you think I should wear a specific hat, I've tried to get him to get a Skywatch TV hat. I'll wear one. I could wear GHTV hats.
Well, that's true.
Or
And if
armored sheep hats.
There you go.
I
And if
know.
you're interested in those, by the way, go to gilberthouse.org/store, because there is a link there for shirts, mugs, caps, and so forth.
Yep.
And that, by the way, all benefits Kenny C. and his music ministry, working with students and families who can't afford instruments for their kids.
Yep.
So you can, represent for P.I.D. Radio or GHTV or the Armored Sheep and help out a kid who needs help getting a guitar or a drum kit or something.
Music is such a wonderful way to help wire a brain and a soul.
Amen. Tomorrow morning, of course, is our Bible study. We're back in the book of, I think we're still in Isaiah.
Yes.
Because I thought we were going to do 2 chapters last week and we only got 1. But there's something at the end of Isaiah chapter 8 that's really, really important. Yeah. And tomorrow night, there will be another view from the bunker. Oh,
my goodness, you're getting active.
Getting crazy out there at the lake. Ali Siadatan. First time I've talked to him in about a year and a half.
Very important.
Because last year, when this was progressing, I really scaled back to trying to do just 1 a month. The Iron and Myth series with Judd, Brian, and Doug. But Ali is of Persian descent, and he still has family in Iran. We didn't talk about that because with everything that's going on there, we don't want to make him or his family a target.
No.
But he's got some insight as to what's going on in Iran and how this will affect our understanding of end times prophecy. Because, Ezekiel 38, Persia is one of the nations mentioned in that coalition. So what happens if the Ayatollahs are removed?
Interesting stuff.
He's got a really good answer for that. So that's tomorrow night on A View from the Bunker. So thank you again for listening. And until next time, I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and we love you guys so much. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye, everybody.
P.I.D. Radio is on the air. Politics, prophecies, and conspiracy.